about that, why he didn't say it was good the second day. He only said it was good the third day. Anyway, first day and third day, but he said it's good again. Put a moral dimension in. God let the earth produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants, fruit trees, fruit with their seeds inside, and so it was. And the earth produced vegetation, plants bearing seed. There are several kinds of trees bearing fruit with their seed inside, several kinds. God saw that it was good. Evening came, morning came, third day. Now, we can begin to say something about this. First of all, it's ceremonial. It's repetitious. It's abstract. By ceremonial, I mean it follows a certain formula. It repeats the formula. It's not personal. It's formalistic or abstract. It repeats the same form of words and just changes them slightly for what it's trying to say. And of course, I already said it adds a moral dimension in the fact that it is good. In other words, an evaluation dimension. It's not just neutral, it's good. And it's repetitious. I also think, if you look at it carefully, I don't know what your views on biology and evolution are, but it's evolutionary. I mean, it's certainly evolutionary. Look, I mean, it may not be the highest evolutionary presentation that you might have in the present day, but it certainly isn't stationary, and it starts from the primitive and gets more complex. It may not be evolutionary in the sense that that's the problem with the Word of God, the mindset that a day for them is a day, and so it has to be a single day. But what is a day? A day is a relative thing anyway. A day in Saturn, a day in Jupiter is different than a day on Earth, and I'm sure all a day means is the revolution of the thing around its axis, how long it takes for it to move through the light path. So that's all a day is in our modern science. But in any case, there was darkness and everything. There wasn't any radiation or light, and then light came into being. And then after a while, there was water, and then there was air above the water. And then, just like the tectonic plates, people think the waters came together in a single mass, the land, you know, the plates and so on. So it is a primitive kind of science, and it certainly is evolutionary. It's getting from higher to lower. And look at the way the evolution gets into when it gets into life. It starts with primitive life, vegetation, you know, viruses, bacteria, plants, things like that. And it's not going to get into higher life until later in the later stages. So I don't know what the problem is here with what the complaint is on either side. This is an evolutionary statement of the development of the universe, and it is not so much at odds with modern science. And as far as modern science goes, this isn't a particularly bad science for its own time. What is the problem either way? I personally don't get it, except for stubborn people who want to, you know, get too technical about certain points, what a day is, and so on, and want to stick to the absolute letter and don't see the general gist, or want to press more from the text than it can deal with, like I said at the beginning. And that's all that I have to say about this. I think it's a very good science for its time and very elegantly stated. And it's certainly much better than reading some of the biology textbooks you'll get to read. And it does incorporate a moral dimension, a dimension of goodness into it, which is lacking in most other presentations. So it is poetic in that way. So I don't see anything wrong with it, but it's mostly a ceremonial text. It's meant to be intoned, probably mass read, in a building, a temple or something of that kind, in a ceremonial way, when, you know, maybe with a chorus or something, you know, they may have had music, who knows what they had, you know, and how this particular account developed. But it certainly has a rhythm to it, and even in English, repetitiousness and ceremonialness. These are things you might want to say about it. But look at this. The life creation is massive. It's plural. It's seed-bearing plants, plural. Vegetation in masses and masses. Trees in masses and masses. it's going to be the same. It's the word, the world teems with life. It's not a singular creation by any means, this first, and we call this the first creation story of the Bible. That's why religious people don't speak of this, but scholars and academics speak the first creation story. You say, what, is there a second one? Yeah, there will be a second. And what scholars will say, and what the academically minded people will say about this, is that the second creation story, which I'll show you where it begins in the present, well, let's finish this one first. It actually begins in line 4 of chapter 2. It doesn't even begin in line 1 of chapter 2. The second creation story, to some extent, is at odds with this more singular sort of creation story, more poetic, if you like, not as abstract, not as ceremonial, clearly written by someone else, as we'll see. And one of the clearest signs it's written by someone else is the point you were bringing up. It uses a different name for the deity. It uses the Lord, Yahweh, instead of just Elohim. You say, well, how do you know it's Elohim? How do you know it's El? It's usually Elohim. And occasionally it'll be El will pop in there. Now El or Elohim, El is the general Eastern Mediterranean name for God. In what we now call Lebanon, Phoenicia, they call El, the gods they call El. And even in Islam, Allah, you see the similar root. You say, oh, Allah, that's El. No, yeah, it is, but it's not exactly what you think. It is the same root, but it works a little bit. This is the pen I was using. Look at this one. It works a little. I erase this stuff. See if this works. Oh, yeah, it does a little bit. God, this is weird. Actually, Allah is a contraction. Al is the Arabic definite article, the. And then God in Arabic is il, which is basically the Hebrew El. Vowels don't matter in these languages, just the consonants. Just like regional accents in America. You know, some people, whenever they speak, they pronounce E's as I's.